So we were just talking a little bit about where there's sort of breakdowns in the system, where people fall through the cracks, and it sounds like when they're ready to go to detox or when they're done with detox, where's a safe place for them to go so
Right.
that they're not influenced by
Right.
drugs and...
Yep. And so that's the hard part, is when I get them out of detox and a place to put them. And so that's why we created Next Place. You know, I can take the men there, but I don't have a place for women yet, and we're really working on that. But women, luckily, there's enough clean and sober houses that are women that I have communication with that will let them stay on a couch for a few days.
That's great. So how does that differ from some of these like motels and voucher systems?
Well, the motels and voucher systems. Well, I don't know anything about the voucher systems other than they just put them in a hotel somewhere to their own devices, right? And it's kind of the same way with the homeless shelters, is that they can use there. So there's really no incentive for them to move on with their lives and get detox or whatever. That's really a choice that they have to make. And who's going to, if you're a drug addict and you're given a hotel room, you know, with TV, internet, and everything else, so what's gonna stop you from staying there?
So you'd say there's really no incentive. So this is taxpayer dollars are going a lot towards these kinds of motels versus
millions.
Some kind of system that you have where even if you want to be clean, you're surrounded by all of the temptation.
Yeah.
And you and one of your passengers today was talking a little bit about the Motel 6 there in the 21st Legislative District, that it's a kind of a hotbed of criminal activity.
Oh, yeah. There's been
dangers.
Deaths and overdoses there, deaths. They don't like talking about that, but there has. There's been, prostitution, drug sales. I mean, you name it, it's all right there. And all the hotels, and that's just not that hotel. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's everywhere, right? And so that's just kind of the way it is. Unless you go to a 5-star hotel somewhere where they have top security, you're going to get that anywhere.
So would you say one of the things that needs to come with the funding is a sense of accountability?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
That sounds important.
Yeah.
And then what about kind of a common theme, it seems, that a typical stay at these treatment facilities is about 28 days.
28 days unless they've been state accredited to be able to stay there longer.
And that's maybe a little rare.
That's pretty rare.
Okay.
And, unless they've been around for a long time. Now, treatment center we're in front of here, Holman Recovery Center, is working on that. But they have to have so many patients. They have to have a consistency. They, it's almost like a vetting process with hours of people that are there. And I'm not exactly sure how that process works.
But would you say in general, maybe we need kind of a longer chunk of time in treatment?
Yeah.
Especially given
not only that, but detox. Really, it's got to start with detox. Because they're detoxing people like it's heroin, and heroin is only a 7-day detox done, and it's out of your system. Fentanyl can take weeks, if not months, to get out of your system.
Okay, so if we want like longer term success rates, we would look at a longer detox and possibly longer treatment.
At least double the detox, and then a seamless entry from detox to treatment.
Right.
That's really the key.
Okay, that seems to make a lot of sense, because a better way to kind of invest our money is to make sure that you have that seamlessness, so that people don't slip back into those bad habits.
Yep.
And then what's going on kind of like in the jail? So let's say you've got an addict who's maybe committed some criminal activity.
Well, as far as I know, that the social workers are supposed to go through the jails every day.
Okay.
That's what I was told. But I know that that's not happening. I've had clients, that are in jail that try and put in what they call a kite, which is a way of communication between the inmate and the outside world, or, social services. And I had one client that put in 3 kites, was there for almost a month, and never got to see anybody. No one. And he could have gone into the sheriff's program.
Okay, so maybe they're kind of brute force then going through detox in jail, or...
Yeah, I don't know I don't know what's lacking there or what happens. I really don't. I wish I did, because I'd fix it.
Right,
but
of course.
I don't.
Sure.
So I don't know where that lag is coming from, but it's not working.
Is there some... I know there's like a big debate, like whether there's incentive, right? So, go to jail or go to treatment. Do you think that's an important
I personally do. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, that's where I got my first taste of sobriety, 32 years ago.
Yeah,
you know?
I agree. I mean, that seemed in my personal case, I've had family members that it was being in prison that actually brought them to sobriety and long-term success. But the young lady that was with us today, she was threatened with, I mean, she was DUI and all of that, but then the charges just got dropped. So maybe that was kind of a missed opportunity, because that was 2 years ago, and then it took, so she was suffering
she was 18,
for another 2 years.
18 or 19 then, and she was 21
in possession
now. Just turned 21.
She talked about the possession of all sorts of paraphernalia and quantities of illegal drugs, but of course there was the pandemic and they weren't really holding a lot of people anyway, but that just, it sounds like with a DUI it's unsafe to citizens and residents, but it also prolonged her suffering quite a bit by not giving her that encouragement. I know I've got some other questions. What do you think is the most important thing that could be done, like in Olympia? I know you talked about there's some programs, some counties are doing some outstanding treatment, like up in Bellingham.
Yep.
Is that something?
I would love to see more long-term treatment centers, like Bellingham or Whatcom County has what's called Baker Creek. I've had some amazing clients go there, come out that were paranoid schizophrenic, I mean, in really bad mental condition due to drugs and alcohol, and get out of there, and they're different people when they get out. And one of them, I know, I lost contact with one, but the one I do stay in contact with, is doing amazing. Has got her own apartment, she's got a job, her life turned around.
That's great.
And she was only there 90 days, right? But
that's more than 28, and it
absolutely.
sounds like...
And she had mental conditions, and they were able to provide, social services for her with counseling, a psychologist, doctors on staff, nurses on staff, people to help facilitate all that. And, those are the type of treatment centers. And Holman here, is trying to work that way too, a more holistic type of treatment, where there are psychologists and counselors and they can talk to, some of these things out. Because, they've shown that, now they say 68% of all addiction is caused from childhood trauma.
Sure.
And I believe that.
I believe that too.
I have no doubt in my mind. And we need more treatment centers that bring that into effect, and talking to these people about it, like this young lady, she was openly talking about some of her trauma.
You're right.
And she wasn't that way when she came in here.
Yeah.
So
it was lovely. She shared everything. Just wanted to educate anyone she could about what she has gone through. What about, so it sounds like the state, maybe health departments, you kind of indicated maybe there's some underreporting of the damage that the fentanyl is doing, the death rates, and
absolutely,
and some of the illnesses associated with
and I don't know,
detoxing, or maybe that's something we should explore a little bit. But.
Absolutely, I think that we need to hear those numbers. Coroners need to announce those numbers, because it is far, far more, a lot more. Like I was saying, where Janelle's sitting now, I've had 22 people that are no longer with us, and I'm only talking in the last 6 months when I started keeping track.
Yeah.
And so you got them into detox treatment, they go out, they relapse, and they die. I don't know if it's the fentanyl as far as, the amount they're putting in it, but they go back to using their same dose they were taking, and, and they die.
And they die.
Yep. And so we're just seeing a lot of it.
I mean, absolutely scary. I mean, even your story you shared with the young man who went into cardiac arrest while in your car.
Yep. Yeah, I've had them do that. And the one that really gets me the most was I got a call from a mother, and I'd gotten her daughter into detox 2 or 3 times. And she was a young lady. She was 22 years old. and mentally a lot younger, because she had started her addiction at a pretty early age.
Yeah.
But they found her down in Seattle in front of a 7-Eleven, where she lay dead in front of the 7-Eleven door, for overnight, and people were walking over her body, and until somebody finally checked her, did they even know she was dead, and unfortunately, I hear those stories, but did I see anything in the news about that, or I hear anything about it? No.
Losing track.
Yeah.
It's people
There's just
become
so much of it going
numb.
on. It's just everywhere, and it's not a homeless problem that we have. It's an addiction problem. And that rather than throwing the money at hotels where people get no help,
Right.
or very little, unless they want it and they advocate for it. And it's not that you can push them into it, but you can sure give them some incentive, like, okay, we're going to put you in a hotel for 4 days. If you want,
But you
detox
gotta be
and
clean and
treatment, you're welcome to stay here until you get out. We'll hold your bed. If not, you got to go back on the street. Something like that. I mean, rather than just this, there's people that have been in one of the hotels I know of that have been there for 3 months, and what's the incentive there?
It's like just a holding pattern.
Yeah.
Just out of sight, out of mind, instead of really caring what's happening.
And an addict, unless they have accountability, and they will just continue to use and use you and use up the resources.
Right.
That bed could be for somebody that needed it.